So AC 101 is pretty easy in the sense, you know, you read the stuff, you attend the classes. There was not a lot of homework. So we kind of deliberately keep it a little simple. Things do start getting a little bit more, slightly more complicated and more comprehensive and more detailed. So AC 102 is your, you know, it's your introduction to Ayurvedic nutrition, and specifically in Ayurveda we call nutrition ahara. So you will see Ayurvedic concept of ahara, and we will talk a lot about Agni. Now, the amount of videos we have are a lot more than 50 hours. So you will have to watch a lot of videos. Playlist 5 is Ayurvedic cooking. There's 13 videos in there, which is a lot of fun. You will be doing a little bit of cooking there. And playlist 4, okay, this only has 3 videos, thank God. Playlist 3 has 15 videos. You don't have to watch all 15 because many of them are, you know, it's repeating again and again. Probably you would end up watching more like 8 or 9. Then Agni and Ama, there's 7 videos. You'll probably watch 4. And the first one, Introduction to Ayurvedic Nutrition, you have to watch all of them. Actually, you have to watch 1, 2, 3. I would say all of them, yeah, pretty much. So what I had done was I had given you homework right here that was given on Friday. Did everybody go through it? Where did it go? Yeah, there it is, AC 102 reading. I had asked you to read chapter 1 of AC 102 book, and I'd also asked you to watch the recording. Did everybody do that already? Yes, Satya did it, Maria did it. Anyone else? So, Nicole, you did it. That's fantastic. So I am just going to quickly go through it and ask you, since you've already, so from now on you have to do, because we have a lot more material in AC 102, we will be giving you pre-reading and pre-homework. So watch the recording and then ask the question starting from, you know, this coming week. So everybody has done it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through this particular slideshow and go through it really quickly because you've already, you know, gone through it once. Here we go. So this is the one I had asked you to review, and every week we're going to review it very quickly. Now, why we have learned about the 3 doshas. We have learned 3 doshas, and they kind of affect their psychosomatic constitution, but we pretty much focused on our bodies. In the AC 101, we focused on how the 3 doshas are affecting our body. So obviously we talked about, you know, these are the tastes that are good. This is how we balance it. When we talk about the, you know, we get into the concept of Ayurvedic nutrition, we also need to consider 3 other things. What balances our mind? So there was one question from me, I think it was you, Nicole. You had asked me, is egg whites okay for Vata? Now, as a, you know, as an academy that propagates vegetarianism, we propagate vegetarianism, we propagate veganism, we propagate plant-based diet. That is the aim and objective of me founding the college. However, having said that, Ayurveda is okay for animal-based products for Vata person. And having said that, Vata person physically will benefit from animal-based products, to answer your question, but mentally they will not benefit, especially if they're tamasic. So what is it that we are considering? Sattva or sattvic, tamas or tamasic, rajas or rajasic. Can anybody tell me what is sattva or sattvic? One person tell me sattvic, one person tells me tamasic, and one person tell me rajasic. Mode of purity or goodness is sattvic. Anybody? Tamasic? Thank you. Mode of ignorance? Yes. Tamas or tamasic is mode of ignorance, or yes. It represents being lazy and being dull. So these are the qualities of the mind. So qualities of the body are vata, pitta, kapha, and qualities of the mind, sattva, tamas, rajas. Think of them as doshas of the mind. Now, not to say that rajas and tamas are bad guys and sattva is a good guy. We need tamas, or, it is dullness, ignorance. This is passion, activity, and this is purity, goodness, stillness. All of these three are qualities of the mind that is essential for us to function. If there was no tamas or tamasic, we wouldn't be able to wind down. You need to have a kind of dull mind to get to sleep. If your mind is very active, then you cannot get to sleep. Rajas or rajasic is passion, activity, things that keeps us going all day. Let's do this, let's do that. And if this wasn't there, nothing would get done. So all of these three, and if there was no sattva or sattvic, we would be depressed. So all of these three are important and needed. But if someone is unbalanced in the mind, if their mind is unbalanced, then always we want to move a person towards sattvic food. That is so even if it's a vata person, I would even have the vata person have a temporary pure vegetarian diet so that we can balance their mind. Once their mind is balanced, they can go back to their normal diet. Does it make sense? If it's a vata person, if it's a pitta person and they're very much in passion or activity, we also want to move them towards sattvic. If you have tamasic person who are very dull and ignorant and like a couch potato. Have you ever seen that program where people hoard stuff? I don't know if it's still on, but it's about hoarders, and it's a psychological disorder, and how they hoard things and their house becomes like a authorities have to be called in to clean up their house. That is a very extreme type of tamasic disorder of the mind. Mind becomes dull, ignorant, you can't see through it, you're just collecting and hoarding stuff. So when you have a tamasic mind, especially in a kapha person, you do not immediately move them towards purity, goodness. You move them towards activity, and then from activity you move them towards stillness. And now the aim and objective of this lecture was, and I'm assuming you've already gone through the lecture and watched the recording that I did before, then we are going to use food to affect the mind. We are all a combination of these three doshas. We also cover sattva, tamas, rajas. All the disorders of the mind, psychological disorders in Ayurveda, are related to sattva, tamas, or rajas. So we do it in AC 106 in a lot of detail. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about this. So the idea is, okay, first of all, since we are starting AC 102, food is manifestation of God. So and this is in Ayurvedic textbooks. Now, Ayurvedic textbooks say sattva is the best food, but at the same time, they're talking about animal-based foods. Why? Because Ayurveda wants to help everybody. Ayurveda wants to help someone who eats animal-based food, someone who eats, who is rajasic and tamasic. So, but you cannot bring someone who has been eating animal-based food 3 times a day into sattva in 1 day, right? So Ayurveda is okay with giving them animal-based food, but you start reducing it by little, or change the dinacharya. But being able to cook good food and understanding that food and grains are part of the divine, that changes the whole way we cook, the whole way we grow it. Our whole cycle of how we grow food in today's world is a complete diametrical opposite of how we think of food. As even the animals, Ayurveda does not believe in factory animals or anything like that. Even in old times, people, when they got hungry, they would hunt for their own food, and they weren't, even tigers and these carnivorous animals will only hunt when they're hungry. So as a human being, we are the only species in the entire world that will just we will grow animals and feed them corn, and I can go on and on. But the idea is we should understand food is an energy of Mother Earth. Mother Earth is a Shakti, and she is giving us food, and especially grains and plant-based foods. So having that connection to Earth is kind of important. And if you already have that, that's fantastic. You will make a beautiful Ayurvedic practitioner, an Ayurvedic doctor, or Ayurvedic counselor, whatever your aim and objective may be. But if you don't have it, I would say try having a little garden. If not, just grow some herbs that really reinforces your. And if you don't, just cook. So a practitioner of Ayurveda is a good cook. There is no going around it. I don't want to cook. I don't like to cook. I don't have time to cook. Then you cannot be a good practitioner of Ayurveda. And even if you're not a good cook, at least start cooking. Cooking is extremely important in Ayurveda. You have to have, the whole Ayurveda is a lifestyle. It is not just, you went to an Ayurvedic practitioner, they gave you Triphala, Ashwagandha, or whatever herb they gave you, and now you're never going to go back. It's a lifestyle, just like yoga is a lifestyle. You need to stock up on your herbs and spices. You need to cook. Vedic diet is meant to heal your soul, your mind, your karma, connect you deeply to Mother Nature. So we, as an Ayurveda talks about plant-based diet and ahimsa, and so does yoga. But at the same time, it talks about animal-based diet because, you can just, it wants to help everybody, right? It wants to help everybody. But for our college, our focus is all plant-based diet. The intention and mood with which foods are prepared infuses them with subtle and noticeable qualities. Everything should be offered. So, it is the aim and objective of the story is food is not just clinical nutrition made of carbohydrates and fats and micronutrients and macronutrients, it is more than that. It has pran, it has energy, and we should understand that energy is Shakti of God. And, having that, cooking with that, cooking with love and cooking with almost as a meditation, as Atul puts it, is what we need to do. We already did this. Sattva is the mode of purity. It is goodness, construction, harmony. Rajas is movement, passion, and action. And tamas is sleep. If there was no tamas, we can't sleep. It is laziness, it's anger, it's destruction, it's chaos. Now, later on in the program, we ask you to do a test in which you kind of find out your sattva, rajas, tamas, and everybody say like, I have zero tamas. It's impossible for us to have zero tamas. Because if you had zero tamas, you wouldn't be able to sleep. So the idea is we're always a combination of sattva, rajas, tamas, but sattva should be higher, only then our mental state would be happy. So our doshas can be balanced, but if our mind is not happy, then it's a problem. For the mind to be happy, we need to have, cultivate sattva. Sattva is cultivated by many things. Right now, we are only concerned cultivating sattva by food. So everything we eat, ingest, see, or do is influenced by sattva, rajas, tamas. So when you are overindulging in raw food or cold food or wrong food combinations, overeating, eating too much pungent or spices or late at night. And I'm a kapha person. I can get away with eating a lot of spices. But yesterday we found this really nice place, and I was taken for a Mother's Day meal, and they had this thing which was very spicy with a lot of vinegar. And remember, I'm a kapha pitta. And I had that thing which had vinegar, and in the morning, not only did I feel nauseous and bad digestion, that I had some rashes. It was too rajasic for me. I don't eat rajasic foods. I'll eat a garlic once in a while, but I'm very much used to eating foods in sattva. Does it make sense? So anything that increases vata will increase rajasa. So it's almost like the more vatas eat this food, the more they're going to go round and round in circles, and the energy for, their mind will be frazzled, their nerves will be frayed, they'll be imbalanced. So they need to do the opposite of this. When you eat processed food, junk food, old frozen canned foods, then it will increase our laziness, ignorance. I mean, imagine, and all of us have done it, and don't deny it. I have definitely done it. you're sitting in front of a TV and you're eating whatever, some junk. You can't, you just can't stop eating it. You just keep on munching and munching and munching and munching it, right? And, you become so lazy. Have you ever done the ice cream at night? Oh my God, it's so tasty, but it's so horrible. It's just the next day you were like, what happened? We'll all do these things because these things will increase. Anything that is increasing a lot of kapha is usually increased tamas. Actually, I take that back because it's only the kapha things in processed junk, old frozen canned foods. Even if the canned food is organic, even then it is going to increase tamas. Overindulging in meat, red meat. So ideally meat or red meat. So, if I have a client and I really need to help them with their rajas and they agree for a plant-based diet, and they say, well, what about when I go out? So usually, they're very happy and compromising having a pescatarian diet where they eat fish and a lot of vegetables. And I would take that if they cannot do a vegetarian diet. Because the idea is, especially people who are coming with, whatever unhealthy anger issues or a lot of anxiety, depression, they need to eat more sattvic foods. So here's my client. Jane Doe got fired. She feels lazy, is holding on to the memories of her job and weeping. She feels isolated and alone, hasn't bathed in 3 days. She's been watching reruns of favorite shows on Netflix for days. No, this is not me. She's sleeping for 10, 12 hours. So ordered portobello mushrooms, French fries for 3 people. And that's the only real food she's had in 48 hours. What dosha and guna will become prominent? What dosha and guna will become prominent? What dosha? Kapha, if it's a kapha will definitely become more prominent. But vata, if a person is a vata prakriti, their vata will go out of balance. If a person is pitta prakriti, their vata will also go out of balance. If it's a kapha person, their kapha and vata. So both kapha and vata would be correct. And the reason why both kapha and vata, because look at the hygiene, not bathe for 3 days. Then she's watching reruns of her favorite shows. If you're watching something again and again that affects your mind, that would even affect the pitta. Sleeping for 10, 12 hours will increase kapha. Weeping, if you're weeping if you're weeping and mourning and anxiety, and that will increase vata. Mushrooms will definitely increase tamas. They are very tamasic. French fries will increase all that oil, kapha. Sweets will increase kapha. So there's a lot of tamas. And in fact, yeah, depending on what their prakriti is, all dosha is going to go up, but especially kapha and vata are going to go up. Does that make sense? Do you see where I'm going with this? Okay. I'm really going to go very, very quickly over the rest of these slides. The idea is anything that is like mushrooms if you think about it, mushrooms are quite popular in Chinese medicine, and they're actually medicinal. They have beautiful medicinal qualities. And one of the fungus that we use in everyday life when we go to our physicians is penicillin. So if you know how penicillin was discovered, it was a fungus. It's basically made out of a fungus. But what we're talking about, and don't get me wrong, I love my portobello mushrooms and I love all of these things. But when you are in a tamasic state of mind, or your client is in a tamas, anything that grows in a dark place will increase tamas, and also animal-based foods will increase it. So if you have someone who's animal-based foods, will increase tamas and rajas, especially red meat. And anything that grows in dark place will increase tamas. I saved it. Sattva, we again talk about sattva. Sattva is pretty much organic food, plant-based foods, and especially kapha increasing foods, and which have water. Like yam is very sweet, carrots are sweet, wheat is sweet, cow's milk is sweet, but natural sweet that is found in nature, for example, organic grass-fed ghee. um, I want to say that, there's this whole thing out there where sugar is bad. Sugar is the bad guy, and so is fat. No, sugar is not bad guy in Ayurveda, because the kind of sugar and the sweet or madhura that we are talking about is naturally found in nature. For example, dates. Dates, fruits, whole grains are considered sweet. So barley is considered sweet. Wheat is considered sweet. Sweet vegetables like carrots and yams and potatoes and so on. Sweet milk and dairy products. These are considered sweet. And yeah, ghee is considered sweet. So that is the whole idea, that these things are, and one of the things about sattvic foods are they're always fresh. They're not out of fresh food. They're organic, they're fresh, they're not out of a can or a tin, or they're not frozen, they're fresh. Locally grown would be sattvic. Locally grown, organic, not mixed with chemicals, not out of a can or a tin. So rajas, again, like I said, it's not like rajas is not needed. If there was no rajas or rajasic guna, nothing would ever get done. It's that energy, it's a kinetic energy that makes us go and do things. But unfortunately, if you have too much of raw food or cold food or like vata increasing foods, or eating too much onion and garlic, this will increase the vata tendencies in rajasic guna. So, you will see that, for example, I joined an ashram, for 13 or 14 years, I did not eat any onions and garlic. Only when I came to this country, you can't just avoid them. So I started eating, but yeah, onions and garlic really increase rajasic tendencies. So these things will pacify rajasa in the mind, naturally sweet, sour, and salty. So everything that is pacifying vata dosha is also pacifying rajasa. Example, tamarind, oranges, lemon, citrus fruit, mineral water, seaweed, sea salt. 6 rasas in the mind, and this is my last slide. Please print it out. It is up there online, and I want you to remember this. So, how we learned that sweet, sour, salty is good for vata. Bitter, astringent, pungent is good for kapha. And sweet, bitter, astringent is good for pitta. That is for the body. But there is also an action on the mind. Sweet will satisfy, nurture. Why do you think that, when someone has a breakup, they always even show in the movies, when they have a breakup, then you naturally reach for a candy because your body wants something sweet to satisfy and nurture your heart. But, if you were to reach for a strawberry or some raspberries or even pineapple or mangoes, that would help that need to satisfy because you're feeling, if you feel the need to be loved because there's been a breakup or whatever, that satisfy it. The sweet taste that comes from eating, candy or sugar is a different, that's not the sweet. That is like an addicted taste of something. It's like an addiction. This is not the sweet that do you understand where I'm coming from? And when someone is having too much sweet, they will get, they will hoard stuff, they'll attach. And if you think about it, all the kaphas like me, one of the things we are hoarding our weight. We are attached to it. Naturally salty, confidence, enthusiasm, and if you have too much of salty foods, greed, you can end up increasing pitta as well. A sour, stimulation, discrimination. So if you're having too much citrus foods, you know how they say the relationship has gone sour. Think about it. That's exactly what happens when you overindulge in sour things. So the idea is not to overindulge. Naturally bitter. This is why we say that Vatas should avoid too many bitter things. So all those bitter, you know, having kale like 3 times a day, no, 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 not so good for Vata. You cannot have kale 3 times a day. Once a day is more than enough. It'll give isolation, loneliness, grief, sorrow. For someone like Kapha, they're so hoarding things. You want to unhoard things. You want to take away their attachment to whatever chips and candy. Then give them bitter foods. So when someone is addicted to sweet, give them bitter foods. After some time, the tongue gets used to not having sweet. Astringent. Naturally astringent would be beans, or like if you've ever had a green raw banana, it kind of it tingles your mouth, it's drying, you pucker it. On another example would be like white wine, how dry it is because all the alcohol, all the sugars have been converted into alcohol, so it's very drying. That's what astringent means. So if you have too much astringent food, drying of emotions, all that means is that you kind of feel cold inside. It can lead to fear and anxiety, too much of it. Pungent, it's extra. The minute you take something pungent like horseradish or a spicy food, there's a fire that comes. So it makes you very fiery. But if you have too much of it, it's too much fire will lead to violence or unhealthy habits. These are some examples I've given here. That's it. Let's look at your questions. Right. So I know there's so much to do. I'm going to give you homework. You do need to, here's your homework. So you're going to have your AC 102 homework right here. So here again, go to this course, go to assignments. Your homework's going to be here. Right now, this is due 17th May. You're going to review Trigunas lecture you've already done. This one, again, you're going to review and you're going to ask me questions. I really wanted to start AC 102 today, but so you're going to review this one, a difference between Ayurvedic and Western nutrition. And this is your first homework that is due. Okay. I am so sorry for taking so much of your time. Have a wonderful rest of the Mother's Day, guys.